Spring rushes into the easternmost part of Transylvania. Some species, during their evolution, tried to adapt to the lack of food in certain periods. Some with migration, others with hibernation, and bears with winter sleep, called torpor. Bears aren't able to accomplish their roles as predators, or only in a weak manner. During winter, the main parts of their diet, such as herbaceous plants, insects, and fruits, can't be found in appropriate amounts. People attract wild animals with artificial feeding so they can observe, hunt, or use them for ecotourism. Due to the artificially placed supplementary food, the winter sleep of bears can start later. Their sleep duration can shorten or not happen at all. Thus, some bears may experience winters without their winter sleep. Normally, the mother bear should wait until winter passes and there's enough natural food for the cubs to survive without trouble. In this case, we're witnessing a process of accommodation, which affects the cubs as well, since, as a result of human interference, their life's course slowly changes. This part of the series is created from a material of 3 years, and I'm trying to share such information that would help the viewers get a better and more realistic understanding of nature, which is the goal of this 4-part series. The warm airflow is melting the snow. Instead of snowfalls, a spring shower greets salamanders peeking out of their winter dens. Since they are amphibians, they need the presence of water to reproduce. Therefore, straight, brave as they can get, they start marching towards a forest creek. It seems they don't know the saying, this way shorter, that way faster. So they waste a lot of time overcoming obstacles that could easily be bypassed by a few meters sidetrack. Finally, spring arrives, coated in birdsong. As the cover of snow starts to ease, a messenger of spring emerges. The smell of February daphne fills the forest, unquestionably pointing out that winter is slowly over. In the next 2 weeks, a strange ritual takes place in this few hectares of spruce forest in the Haramseki Mountains. The appearing figure in the morning mist is a male of a rare species, a Capercaillie. Since the Capercaillie doesn't leave its habitat in wintertime and can digest cellulose and lignin, he utilizes the only source to be found during this period, which is spruce needles. So today's menu, just like the past 3 months, is spruce needles.
After the obligatory morning performance, they leave the lek, teasing each other as if they were just entertaining themselves. They're visibly avoiding the actual clash due to the chance of physical injury, because you will need a good rival for tomorrow that you can once again antagonize. With the hammock, I can spend the nights in the most optimal places without disturbing the nighttime movements of the Capercaillies. The new antlers of the stag have already started to grow. In 3 months, they will increase to many times their current size. The lek sites are but a few hundred meters square, to which the birds hold on to through generations, and they can return to it for decades. In these areas, sometimes groups of 12 to 20 hens and cocks gather. Each cock occupies a part of the lek. They try to defend it with a mating dance and song while attempting to attract females at the same time.
The start of the mating period is controlled by external stimuli, such as photoperiod, which is the ratio of the days and nights' lengths. Therefore, when the period of daily illumination reaches the required amount, the secretion of hormones in the hypophysis begins, which results in mating. In the meantime, the development of the reproductive organs are being stimulated by factors like food, temperature, or the presence and behavior of a potential partner. The gender differences stand out both in color and size. Hens weigh an average of 1.5 kilograms, while males can be twice the size at 3.5 kilograms. As time passes towards noon, the cocks are getting more and more aggressive. Their main goal is to scare away potential rivals from the hens. From up above, it's easier to choose the best and the prettiest. Which cock should it be? The orated big vest? The handsome acrobat? Or the unreachable pretty boy? The hen is facing quite a difficult verdict.
Some cocks, after the daily display, fly up to a tree, peck at some spruce needles, then elegantly leave the scene. Both sexes of the species appear to be quite tolerant of the small-scale changes in the composition of the forest that only affect their home range. However, large-scale changes that relate to their habitat at a landscape level does affect them. The Capercaillie is an indicator species, whose presence reflects a typical community with its own specific conditions. In this case, it means that in the area that there's good quality habitat of old spruce and blueberry. If the composition of this community changes, the Capercaillie won't remain in the area. This is why the development of another lek can take tens of years, depending on whether there are dense old forests in the area and what the quality of the food source is there.
For the hens, dense old forests and trees with large branches are also important under which they can build their nests. The thick undergrowth provides where they can find insects that are vital for the development of the offspring's feathers.
The lek should be approached in the darkness, silently and with no lights, however fearful and dark the forest may seem. In the dusk, or right before dawn, the cocks start flying into the mating sites. During this time can be heard the flapping of wings from the dark woods, or the crackling of branches if one misses the landing.
When it dawns, every worthwhile cock is around the breeding site. The more eager ones are already showing off themselves on the ground. The courtship ritual consists of many repeating stanzas that every cock is supposed to know. It starts with clicking sounds, which speeds up, then ends with a grinding noise. The hens, on the other hand, are vigilantly observing everything that happens nearby. Successful mating still requires that the lek be undisturbed during the mating season. The forest should be at least half 100 years old, sufficiently spacious and open where the cocks can see far. All of this is important so that these large-bodied birds, if the need arises, could fly away from predators. The cocks do not have a special wedding attire. The color of their plumage doesn't change fundamentally throughout the year. The thing that significantly changes is the way they present themselves, and the red area about their eyes grows considerably.
By noon, the wedding crowd scatters away from the lek to the roosting site, to rest and feed. Although there are no signs of it, ravens are songbirds too, only of a different genre. The great woodpecker is just proving to him his tool's capability by taking out the seeds of a pine cone. Spring is already at its peak.
Bringing the changes even to the most hidden corners of the woods.
The protected dogtooth violets are competing to open their petals, while the hypatia is graciously opening his chalice. In the middle of spring, the setting sun paints the fresh green leaves of trees to an almost surreal color.
As evening approaches, a tawny owl calls out of an old tree cavity, to which its mate responds. This is the favorite eerie nighttime sound in movies. The morning is no longer loud from the crackling cold. The dawn is now crackling from bird songs.
To renew food sources in artificially planted forests, at least half or up to 1 hectare of selective cutting is necessary to allow the undergrowth and shrub levels to form. This is a primary source of resources for the consumer community.
At maybe 4 years old, this young bear is looking for ants, arthropods, and their larvae. Old trees and rotting logs can also provide food for bears. This is because many insects develop or take cover under the bark and in the withered, rotting tree body to escape the cold winter.
Meanwhile, as the days get longer and longer, the buds of the trees begin to develop into tender leaves. The roebuck is licking an old log used as a salt resource where hunters have put salt. This contains such important minerals and trace elements that are difficult for wildlife to obtain in proper amounts during the winter. With pines, which is normal for gymnosperms, fertilization happens by wind pollination. A large amount of pollen forms clouds, which is necessary to pollinate, even if by chance, as many female cones as possible.
Wild boars, after feeding during the night, try to return to their daytime resting sites as soon as possible.
Adequate food is provided by old, slender beech trees, which even if they do not produce beech nuts every year, they still provide for lush undergrowth. Without this, there could only be a few animal species in the woods. Fog developing after a heavy shower is typical of forests with lush vegetation. It's as if the forest was smoking a pipe. The Ural owl does not bother to hunt during the rain. Her chicks are trying to wait patiently until one of the parents brings them food.
For a helpless chick, the dark cavities of a tree may provide greater security. But once you have outgrown it, the key to survival will be immobility and a confident, "I'm not here at all" type of attitude. However, it would be recommended to practice all of this by leaning as close as possible next to the trunk of the tree, which would greatly increase the efficiency of this technique.
The fragile wood anemone breaks the continuity of the shades of green.
The roebuck in winter coat has grown new antlers during the winter and has already rubbed off its velvet. Roebucks, just like a stag, also change their antlers every year. As soon as he realizes my presence, he shatters the silence of the forest with a loud alarm.
By the edge of the forest, two young roebucks are just growing their antlers. Their antlers are covered in a fuzzy, protective hair, which is like velvet. In the case of May bugs, a generation develops synchronously every 3 to 4 years. And at this time they are emerging in mass from underground. They feed, mate, lay eggs, and then they die. This mass appearance in the animal kingdom is a general form of defense that gives some individuals a chance to reproduce, even under intense predation, ensuring the survival of the genes. The late spring mornings are still passing throughout. They are the sign of the upcoming cool winter that is shivering through the spirits of the valleys.
The doe also follows the fashion that changes twice a year, although it takes time to change the winter coat into the summer one. The energy obtained from food is split between the embryo in her womb that was conceived during the previous summer and her own needs. This happens because during autumn and early winter, the embryo's development is paused and won't resume until the following January.
The fragrant Siberian iris is the flower of the moorlands and grows in height up to 1 meter. The orchid species are marking the beginning of summer.